Good evening, everyone. Um, as Gideon, and thanks Gideon for the opportunity. As Gideon mentioned, my name is Mimi Anane-Appiah. I lead the retail unit here at Fidelity Securities. Since I'm still in the office, I'll use my company slides. Okay. So Fidelity Securities is basically a fund manager licensed by the Security and Exchange Commission and the NPRA to manage pension funds. Today we are going to talk briefly about money, how to make it, how to save it, how to grow it. And we would like to start with addressing some of our limiting beliefs, things that prevent us from being intentional with our money. Some of these beliefs include it's too confusing, finance is too confusing, it's too complicated, so we don't pay attention to it at all. And if you know anything about money, it can mess you up big time. Some of us think that we'll probably end up like our parents. Either if they were good with money, we'll be good. If they were terrible with money, we'll be terrible. But habits can be changed if you're intentional about it. If your parents you didn't grow up in a very good environment when it comes to money, you can change that. We say some of us say work hard, play hard, which this is very popular. You only live once, Yes, balance is key. Work hard, play hard, but also make sure that you are planning for your future self. Some people say I have enough, so it's okay. Contentment, I would say, is important, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't be intentional about tomorrow. Some will say money is the root of all evil, as a reference to a scripture in the Bible, but it says the love of money, not money being the root of evil, but the love, where you put money above all else. Some will say, I don't care about money. Well, unfortunately, money answers all things. So you need to care about it. And there are few of us who are also expecting an inheritance. You spotted your rich auntie or uncle and you are hoping they die and leave you something. Please, I hope this is not any of us, or we'll get married to a rich man or a rich woman and solve our problems. The truth is that what we think about money can really affect how we behave towards money, how we treat money, how we manage money. So there's this nice quote here that says that a change in our financial situation starts with a change in how we think about money. Yes, I do know that just thinking positive thoughts cannot change anything, but it starts from there. It starts from there. So how do we think positive thoughts, or how do we have a positive money mindset? You really need to assess your money beliefs and attitude. Some of us have very negative beliefs. Like I've already mentioned some. You only live once, so you spend money recklessly. You believe that when you borrow other people's money, you don't pay. All those negative beliefs. You need to sit with yourself and assess. Some of these beliefs and attitudes are carved by our environment. What environment did you grow up in? They are carved by education. They are carved by people we call role models. They are carved by advertisements. We would like to believe that we are our own person, but the truth is that we are influenced by something. So we really need to sit down and assess, what our beliefs are, what our attitudes are, what is influencing them. And then that's where we start from. Now that you know that, okay, I have a bad money belief or attitude, then it's time to improve your knowledge on personal finances. Then also, I find that staying around people with a positive money mindset helps a lot. There's a scripture that says iron sharpened iron. So when you tend to stay in an environment, for me, this is what has helped me the most. Staying in an environment with people with positive mindset, you realize that they rub off on you, and eventually you also have a positive money mindset. We all make money mistakes. So when you do, don't beat yourself and say, you know what, I'm not going to invest anymore. Forgive yourself, learn your lessons, and then move on. Also, avoid comparing yourself to others. I think this is a major issue where we are consistently comparing ourselves. Some of us are in a good enough place, we have a decent income, we have a good enough life, but we are still not happy. We continue to compare ourselves. It's very important that we practice thankfulness. It's also important that we create intentional good money habits. So this is not just something you do one off. It's something you do over and over again. So if you are saving, save over and over again. If you are investing, invest over and over again. Try and invest or maintain good habits, and then also understand that money is just a tool. A lot of the time, people like to worship money and would kill for money, but money is just a tool. So let's be careful not to place money above relationships, above things that are more important. It's just a tool, something to make our lives more comfortable. Okay, so now that we know about money, we have come to appreciate what money is. Let's start with the steps of what we can do to take charge of our money. As a financial advisor, a lot of people will walk to my office or through maybe the platform I manage, Investment Friend, and say, I want to invest. And I believe that that is a very wrong way to start your investment journey. Because if you tell me I want to invest, like, what are you investing towards? Are you investing towards your wedding in 3 months, your child's education in 6 months? Are you investing towards your retirement? Each of these goals may have a different response from me as an investment advisor. So just saying you want to invest may end you up choosing, or you may end up choosing or being advised wrongly. But it's very important that before you invest, ask yourself, why am I investing? What do I want to achieve out of life? Like I said, money is a tool. So, how do I invest to be able to achieve these things? So, this is where we encourage you to set what we call SMART goals. We already know specific, measurable, um, attainable, realistic, time bound. It's very important that instead of saying, I want to be rich, what does rich mean? Because maybe to somebody in the village, the person thinks you are rich. So rich is very subjective. So it's very important that you are very clear on what it is that you want. So if you say you want to be worth 1 million cedis in 10 years, if you come to me with the goal, I know exactly how to help you, taking into consideration your risk tolerance. Now, it's important that we set both we set short, medium term, and long term goals. A lot of the time, we tend to set more short term goals because, I mean, it's easier to see what we want in 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. But thinking through what we want in 10 years, 20 years can be difficult. But what happens if we don't do that is we would have missed out on the opportunity to save little by little towards those long-term goals, like retirement, like college funds for our kids. And then we eventually get them, we have to put in so much effort because we didn't take advantage of the years. So it's very important that you look at both your short, medium, long-term goals. Also, some goals are optional, like buying a new car. If you don't buy a new car, you won't die. Okay, but there are other goals that are necessary, for your financial health, like saving towards your retirement, having an emergency fund. These things make your life more comfortable. If When you set goals, you realize that you have so many things that you want to do. You want to start a business, you want to marry, you want to send your kids to school, you want to buy a new laptop, you want to generate passive income, you want to do all sorts of things. So you need to prioritize and ask yourself, what is it what exactly how do I prioritize? Which one do I want to tackle first? Once you have an idea of what you want to do, let's look at the budget. So what is a budget? A budget is simply a spending plan. A budget is simply a spending plan. So a budget is not meant to restrict you, to stop you from spending, but it's basically telling yourself that I earn 1,000 Ghana cedis. Where is this 1,000 Ghana cedis going to? That is basically what a budget is. So how do you budget? It's important that you list all your income. So some of us have salary. This month I earned MTN dividends, so that's also another income stream. Maybe I go and do something for somebody, they pay me, so I list all my income. Once I have an idea that this is the income I earn, this is the income I receive, and let me say that this income includes gifts. Okay, somebody may give you 50 cedis as a gift, or it's an income. Someone may give you 1,000 Ghana cedis. You can add it to your income. So once you have your total income, the question becomes, where is this going to? And that's when you start listing your expenses. Where do I want this 1,000 Ghana cedis I have earned to go to? That is when you need to differentiate between what we call wants and needs. So needs are anything that you need to survive, like food. So if you check the right hand side of the slide, you see needs 50%. So that's food, rent, transportation, utilities. Those are needs. Wants are things that they are you don't need them to survive. They are nice to have, but you don't need them to survive. So going to the gym, entertainment, eating out, gifts, travels. So these are wants. Now, when you have your budget, especially if you're in a tight place, you would want to make sure that your needs are covered first before looking at your wants. But assuming you have a decent income, then we can apply the 50-30-20 principle or rule of thumb. This is just a rule of thumb, so it is not cast in stone. It is not something you have to use regardless of whether it works for you or not. It's just a guide. And this is saying that 50%, if you earn 10,000, 50% will go towards your needs. So 5,000 go towards food, rent, transportation, utilities, etc. And then 3,000 will go towards the gym, entertainment, eating out, gifts, travel. And then the 20%, which is 2,000 Ghana cedis, will go towards emergency funds, retirement funds, any investment towards wealth creation purposes, debt repayment, etc. So we by now we should be clear on where our money is going. We should be very intentional about making sure that we spend within our means. Nowadays things are very expensive. The standard of living is quite high, cost of living is quite high, you know, and so it's very easy to spend within your means. But you need to make sure that your income minus your expenses is greater than zero. So it shouldn't be in the negatives. It should be more or at least equal to zero. If we add savings as an expense, then we can say that it should be equal to zero. So your income minus your expenses should be equal to zero. But if savings is not captured under your expenses, then it should be greater than zero. Okay. Now you've seen your budget is good, it's not good. What do you do? If it's not good, you are struggling, you are spending above your means, then you need to either boost your income or cut your spending. I know this can be tough, especially cutting your spending when you've gotten used to a certain spending level can be very tough. But it's important that you sit down and ask yourself, if I was earning um, less, which things would I cut out? So it may be where you rent, you may have to change the area you live in. It may be the food you eat, you may have to cook. It may be transport, you may have to probably ask someone at your workplace whether they live around and then share a ride with them. Look for ways to cut down costs. We'll talk more about the income side. Also be aware of lifestyle inflation. It creeps in very slowly. Lifestyle inflation basically when your salary increase. You say, oh, when I earn 10,000, when I earn 20,000, I'll be the richest person. Then you earn 20,000, now it feels like coins. That's lifestyle inflation. Why is it so? Because your expenses rise to meet your new income. So all of a sudden, the gari and beans you eat for lunch is no longer tasty. You want to eat fried rice from a restaurant. All of a sudden, your clothes from Makola are no longer nice. You want to buy clothes from a boutique at East Legon. So this is lifestyle inflation. It's something that creeps in slowly, but it's something that you should be aware of. A way of dealing with this is, as soon as your income increases, plan that extra money and make sure you allocate it to the new areas, because if you get used to it, it will be very difficult to plan that money. Also, automation is very key. Use direct debits, use standing orders to make your life easy. Don't trust yourself too much. To ensure consistency, use these automated systems so that you are able to save regularly. And then also use sinking funds towards large and major expenses. So sinking funds basically is like, okay, we are going to marry, so maybe Ajua and Kwame 2026. Okay, how much do we need? We need 200,000. So you set up a sinking fund and put money towards it frequently, so that you are able to meet the 200. So it's towards a specific goal. So it could be towards one-off expenses or large expenses. Okay, now I mentioned that I'll touch a bit on boosting your income. I've realized that these days everybody is doing something. Everybody is doing something. It seems like one stream of income alone is not enough. So, what can you do to diversify your income streams? You can decide to start a side hustle, maybe a small business. You spotted an opportunity that you think you want to explore. You can start a small business thanks to social media. You don't need a physical shop. Things have become easier, so you can easily start a business, or you can freelance, maybe social media manager, accountant for a small business, or consult in your area of expertise. So whatever your area of expertise are, don't sit on your skills, don't sit on your experiences. You can consult for some people, you can add value and then make money out of it. You can also decide to sell digital products. So we have an ebook, investment friends. So we can decide to sell it, or our courses, or our templates. So you, maybe you have a budgeting template, or you have a course on something you think people will be interested in. You can decide to sell it and make some money. You can also make money from passively by investing in stocks. So yesterday, MTN paid dividends. I made some money from that. So that is also a way of making money, passively, because I didn't have to work hard. I just invested in MTN and then I made money. This is my second September. I received some, and now I've received another one again. So that's passive income. You can do that through mutual funds. You can get some of that through some mutual funds, not all. You can get some of that through ETFs, and then you can also decide to invest in real estate and make some rental income as well. Whatever you are in at now, some of us may be working with people, or maybe we are doing our business. You can, if you are doing business, you can decide to scale so that you make more money. If you are working for someone, it's an opportunity to upskill. If you need to learn a course, if you need to improve on your people skills, if you need to get some mentorship or position yourself for promotion, this is another way to boost your income. Also, monetize what you already know. You'll be surprised that you know more than you think you know. So monetize what you know. Teaching. Recently, we had a stock class. We had more than 1,000 people coming for the stock class. This is knowledge that is in your head, but if you don't share it, you won't make money of it. So this is an opportunity. Maybe you know how to cook, you know how to use Excel. You think you can sell and make money. Why not? Renting your car, an extra room. A friend was telling me about this Airbnb or tools could also be a way of making more money. Number three, the third thing you need to do after you have a solid budget is to make sure you have an emergency fund. So, I mean, I'm sure we hear emergency fund, emergency fund. It sounds cliche, but why this is necessary is because life has its ups and downs. You don't want something to happen and then you go and take money that you have put aside for specific purposes, maybe your retirement, or maybe buying a car or buying a house to meet those needs. Okay, so we normally encourage, financial advisors will normally say have 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. So if you spend 5,000 a month, we are saying 15 to 30,000 should be put away towards emergencies. Now, the truth is that this is a rule of thumb. It differs from person to person. If you have a stable income, maybe you work in government institution, even when you go and do something, they'll rather transfer you. 3 months may be okay. But if you work in a very a place that there's a lot of retrenchment, maybe the mining industry, etc., then you would need to probably have 12 months emergency fund, or you're a freelancer, you may need to have 12 months because there's the likelihood that there may be a period that you may not work for long. So this is very essential. Now, this money can go towards things like car maintenance, maintenance of maybe your home, job loss, at least sustaining yourself while you figure out what's next. Where do you put this money? You can decide to put it in a savings account if it's a lot of money and you don't want to waste opportunity. You can also decide to put it in an easily accessible money market mutual fund that allows you to draw maybe within 24 to 48 hours, so that you can be able to take care of whatever emergencies you have to deal with. It's very important that while we are also building wealth, to also protect our loved ones and our assets. I know insurance is something that a lot of us are not excited about in this side of town, but because most of us are not wealthy, insurance is necessary, because if anything should happen to you and you don't have a good cover, it can set you back. So it will be good to look at things like life insurance, especially if you have kids or people who depend on you, to make sure that even if you are not there, God forbid, should you pass on or be rendered medically incapacitated, you won't be having looking at your children, who will have to drop out of school just because they can't make, ends meet. So it's life insurance is very important. I've put a formula there for how to assess your life insurance needs. But because of time, I won't go through that. Also, look at health insurance. At least have your national health insurance um, arrangement. I've seen various situations where people have mentioned they paid so little, especially for childbirth, etc. If your employer provides health plans as well, you can take advantage of it. Disability insurance. The fortunate thing is that if you are contributing to SNIT, there's some kind of invalidity pensions. If you contribute to SNIT for 12 months, within 36 months of you having an accident or whatever situation that led to you being medically incapacitated, they are going to pay you till you die. They are going to pay you like you're a retiree till you die. So please, if you're not contributing to SNIT, please do. If you have a house, a car, or anything that you spend so much money acquiring, you should consider an insurance. Okay, so hooray! Today is your 60th birthday. Happy birthday. But we want to ask you this question. With your current situation today, with your bank balance, your investment balance, your assets, and your liabilities, would you be able to maintain your current standard of living if you no longer had a salary coming in? If your answer is no, then this is for you. Let's talk about retirement planning. So only 11% of Ghanaian workers are covered by SNIT pensions. We have 95.5% as at 2022 receiving 2,500 Ghana cedis and less. So when it comes to pensions, the situation is dire. Because there isn't too much time, I didn't go too much into pensions. But if you are on Instagram, you can follow investment_friend. We are doing a series on retirement planning. You can follow that to understand more about the tier ones, tier twos, tier threes, what you should do, etc. But these are a few tips when you are planning for retirement. Yes, today, if you have 1 million, it may be enough, but you are retiring in 20 years. 1 million may be nothing then. So you need to consider inflation. You need to consider healthcare costs, which is a big deal for retirees. You need to consider all these when you are working towards how much you need to save towards retirement. You also need to take advantage of tier one, tier two, tier three yes, the government has provided these platforms for us, and if you should take advantage of these three ports without even disturbing it, trust me, you would have a decent retirement. Also, some of us have these three ports, but we keep on withdrawing. We keep on withdrawing, using the money for other things. Please, as much as possible, avoid withdrawing from your tier three. Tier one and tier two do not allow for withdrawals, but tier three allows for withdrawals. And tier three is normally the biggest savings people would normally have. So they are mostly tempted to use this for something. But try and keep this, even if you withdraw, keep it invested in a fund towards your retirement. Also diversify. Apart from tier one, tier two, tier three, if God has blessed you and you have other resources to plan towards your retirement, diversify and consider other investment opportunities. We'll talk more about that in a bit. Have an emergency fund. I've already spoken about that, in an insurance to manage risk. Also start early. Start now. The longer you wait, the more stress or the more money you would need to set aside. The longer you wait, the less money you would get from SNIT, because SNIT takes into consideration how long you contribute. The longer you wait will also affect your tier two and then your tier three as well. So start well. Now let's talk about investment. Some of us have promised ourselves that when we hear investment, we'll turn the other way. We are not interested in investment anymore. Why? Because the truth is that a lot of us have been badly affected by so many happenings. I'll go through that. But before I go through that, I just want to touch on what investment is. It's basically allocating resources towards things that we think would bring us income, generate income, profit gain. So if you are doing an Uber, you've bought a car, you've the Uber is on the road with the hope that it will bring you money. It's an investment. Okay, some of us are investing in all sorts of things. I don't want to go into it. The truth is that every investment, and emphasis on every, has some level of risk. Every investment has some level of risk. Even your safest investment, in quotes, has some level of risk. So let's talk about the happenings that have led a lot of us to lose confidence, in the financial sector. I tend to see that people did not understand what went on. The understanding will help you move on, pick lessons from what happened and move on. So it's all started in 2027 with the 2017, sorry, with the banking sector cleanup as a way of addressing non performing loans and strengthening financial institutions. This led to some collapse of some financial institutions, banks. If you had maybe a fixed deposit with some of these collapsing banks, you may have been affected negatively. Then we had 2019, where the Securities and Exchange Commission revoked the license of 53 fund managers for mismanagement of clients' funds, for their inability to meet withdrawal requests, for regulatory breaches. So that was another one. As if that wasn't enough, in 2022, between 2022 2023, we heard of the Domestic Debt Exchange Program, so DDP. So we heard of things like DDP, haircut, those kind of terms were used a lot during that time. What happened during that time? So around 2021, the international markets closed its doors to Ghana because we had credit rating had rated us, very negatively. That means that if people give money to us, the tendency that we'll be able to pay back is slim. So they closed the market to us. That means that the inflows we were getting, the dollar inflows we were getting, ceased. What does that mean? That means that there was a lot of pressure, and that led to the currency depreciation. We saw the currency depreciating significantly in 2022, and we are an import-driven country. So when the currency depreciates, guess what happens? Inflation would also soar, and that happened. Then if inflation soars, investors want more money for the investments they've done. So treasury bill rates went up, and it doesn't sound as bad. But what happened is those who had existing bonds and existing, so old bonds and old treasury bills, were now trying to cash out so that they can buy dollars because of the what was happening that year, or they can also buy treasury bills because the rates were higher. So there was sort of something like a bank run in quotes on mutual funds um, that had their monies invested in these bonds. Now, remember that the bond market was also not too good at the time, and bonds were selling at a discount, because if I have a treasury bill giving me 30%, why would I come and buy yours for 18%? So if I'm buying yours for 18%, then you have to, if the thing is selling for 100 cedis, maybe I'll buy it at 80 cedis, so that the 20 cedis plus the 18% I will be getting every year will make more sense to me to forgo the treasury bill at 30%. So that is what happened. And that's what introduced what we call mark to market, because now people who were in this mutual fund, everybody wanted to withdraw. If we should go and sell the investment so that we can pay you, we are making a loss. But you want us, but the statement is showing that you have maybe a certain amount. But the reality is, if we sell it, we'll get less. So the regulator said, you know what? So that we avoid any problems, because let's say the fund is 100,000, we all brought 10,000, 10 people brought 10,000. Now, when we sell it, it's 60,000, because nobody is willing to buy it. So it's 60,000. That means everybody has 6,000. But if the people who are taking the money assume that they still have 10,000, what will happen is that the first few people that will withdraw will take away all the money, leaving very little money for those that are left. So it wasn't a fair, way of sharing the money. So because the initial valuation method, or what was used initially assumed that people would invest for a long period. Securities will mature. If we buy a treasury bill, it will mature. If we buy a bond, it will mature. We won't have to go and sell it on the secondary market, because everybody is not coming for their money at once. So once mark to market came in, then we had haircuts, because now your balance on your statement will reflect the actual situation on the ground. Should we sell the investment today? What would you get? So that is what happened in 2022. So that's just by the way. What did this teach us? It taught us diversification, because a lot of us had all our money, or most of our money, and not just individuals, but even institutions, pension funds had most of their monies in government of Ghana securities. If we had invested in other things like what do you call it, stocks, other things like maybe commodities, we'll realize that yes, the funds that are exposed to government of Ghana would have been affected, but we have money in other places that are bringing us good money. So that is the main lesson we pick up from what happened in the past. Okay. And so the question is, should we continue to invest? Yes, because you still want to grow your wealth. You will still want to make some money. Like I mentioned, MTN paid me yesterday. I'm so excited. I want more money in the future, so we are going in hard. Okay, some of us want to preserve the value of our money. We want what our money to buy today to be able to buy tomorrow. And we also want to make sure that we retire well, we are able to take our kids to good schools. If this is you, then investment is important. So what do you do? What do you consider before investing? Understand who you are, your risk tolerance. If you are somebody who is risk averse, there are certain places that you shouldn't go to. But these days, I'm encouraging everybody, even if you are risk averse, take a little bit of risk. Of course, not with money that you cannot afford to take risk with. Take a little bit of it. I tend to find out that as you take a bit more risk, you become a bit more comfortable. I used to be very risk averse, but now I invest in stocks. So this is just as an example. And understand your investment objective. I've spoken about that before you go and sit in front of any investment advisor or buy any investment. Understand why you are investing. Are you investing so that your capital will grow? You want to generate income? I've mentioned MTN dividends. GCP is going to be paying dividends soon. Is that your goal, or you just want to preserve the value of your money? Knowing what you want will help us um, help you to choose the right investment. Also, time horizon is very important. How long do you want to invest? If you want to invest for a short time, won't allow you to go and do certain things. If you want to invest for a longer time, then there are opportunities available. Liquidity. Before you invest, have you paid your rent? Have you paid your school fee? Your short-term needs, have they been met? Okay, then I've mentioned diversification, very important. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Cost and fees. Every investment may come with certain costs and fees. You need to know them, you need to understand them, and assess whether it's a good deal or not. Also, post GDP, when everything happened, people were saying, I didn't tell you to invest in bond. No. Wherever your money is, you should understand where the money is going. Don't just dump your money with somebody and that is it. Understand where what is the money doing. So follow economic trends, geopolitical events. If you're on the foreign US stock exchange, if you're investing on the US stock exchange, you see that this trumps trade wars between and the tariffs have caused a lot of volatility in the stock market. So what investment opportunities are available? I'll quickly go through this. If you're investing in the short term is anything less 1 year or less. Look at money market options, money market securities. So these include fixed deposits. We're talking about fixed deposits with banks and non-banking financial institutions. We are talking about commercial papers. We had one come out, I think it was even launched today or this week. Federation, let me just refer, just a minute. It was the Federated Commodity PLC came out with a commercial paper. So if you had corporate bonds are companies coming out to say that we need money in a form of loans to expand or do one thing or the other. And these are normally long term. The shorter term one is what we call commercial papers, where one was released recently called the Federated Commodities PLC, which is a 150-day security. We also have almighty treasury bills. Everybody knows about treasury bills. That's you giving government a loan. So instead of the commercial paper where you give it to a company, this is government. If you want to invest in a mutual fund that is also that allows you to invest for the short term, you can look at a money market mutual fund. So an example is the Fidelity Money Market Mutual Fund. These are good for planning towards like things like emergency fund, short-term goals, recurrent expenses like rent, school fees, etc. We also have fixed income. So fixed income securities include corporate bonds. I've explained to you what commercial papers are. So the bonds are the longer term ones. For treasury bills, the GOG bonds that were affected were the longer term ones. You can also do invest through the fixed income funds. Most of these funds have been affected by DDP, but truly they present an opportunity for people who understand and believe that government will pay these bonds in 2027 and 2028 when they mature. It's a good time to buy it at a discount, and when they mature, you cash out big time. But please make sure you understand before you go ahead. This is also good for medium to long term investing. Then we have stocks, which has become my favorite thing. So stocks are basically part ownership in a company. So you don't need to start your own business to make money. No, you can decide to invest. There are already companies that are doing well, that we patronize every day, that you can rather decide to put money in. Because once you put money in, guess what? You're a part owner. So an example, you've been calling, using MTN credit, MTN data. Why not make money from MTN? MTN prices last year, MTN prices increased by about 78% last year. This year, it increased and it has dropped again. But MTN is a good company to invest in. They pay dividends at least for now twice a year. So that's also another way of making some money. We have other companies on the Ghana Stock Exchange. We have GCB, we have Bank, we have Goel, we have Total. Do your homework And these are opportunities that we need to take advantage of. People are making money from these opportunities. So if you like to take a bit more risk, because the stock market is more volatile, the returns are not fixed like treasury bills or fixed deposits. But if you like to take a bit more risk, you can take advantage of this. If you are looking at investing on the US stock exchange, you can invest in Amazon, Apple, Nvidia. There are so many opportunities out there, and this is good for medium to long term planning. You can also invest in these equities indirectly through equity mutual funds. So you can do there's an equity mutual fund called EBF by Blackstar that exposes you to some of these funds on the US stock exchange. So you don't necessarily need to go on the US stock exchange and then buy. If you don't want to disturb yourself with all that, you can just buy the equity mutual fund. You can also decide to buy a balance fund, which is a balance between fixed income and equity. So we have one in-house called the Fidelity Balance Fund. We invest in things like MTN, Stanchart, GCB, etc. And then we also have some fixed income. So those that you want to invest in equity, but you don't want to go into hard, but you want to benefit, this is a good opportunity. You can also invest in commodities. So the balance fund also has some commodities, new gold ETF. You can also decide to invest in commodities. You can decide to buy a piece of gold, which may not be the best way because of security issues. You can decide that I want to invest in gold. You can buy a gold ETF on the Ghana Stock Exchange. You can decide to buy the Ghana a gold coin. You can decide to buy a gold ETF on the US stock exchange as well. So this gold is also good for preserving the value of your money over time. It's not as volatile as the stocks, but it's also volatile. Prices can go up and down, but it's not as volatile as the stocks. And recently, it's been a good addition because of increased demand for gold. You can decide to also invest in business, land, properties, and the usual stuff as well. We also have alternatives like crypto, private equity, etc. But these also come with high risk. So just know that when you're investing in something that is extremely risky, you need to put in money that if you lose, you won't be troubled. So compound interest is very important when it comes to investment. I'm sure a lot of us already know about compound interest, so I won't bore you with it. What I'm basically saying is that start now, because just a difference of 10 years can make a whole difference. Look at this situation. Someone started 10 years before the other, and the difference is 2.7, a whole 2.7 million. This is also to throw a bit more light on diversification. We just did some quick analysis of if someone had invested 100,000 in 91-day treasury bills between 2021 to 2024, what they would have made. So 100,000 by now, you should have 222. That was as at December 2024. You should have about 22,000. If you had done bonds, 145, and this is mark to market. So you realize that it's not as bad as it looks. If you had invested one of in the beginning of 2021, you would have made some money, not as much money because of what happened with the bonds. But however, if you have a diversified portfolio, and this portfolio includes treasury bills, it included bonds, we had some what you call it, equities in there. We had some foreign equities in there to give us some dollar hedge. We also had some collective investments in there. We see that this one made more returns, 261 thousand. What am I saying? Diversify, diversify, diversify. So at Fidelity, we have a range of products. So I can't be a business development manager and not talk about my product. So help me allow me to touch on these briefly. So we have the money market. I've already mentioned this is good for short-term planning, and we invest primarily in treasury bills. And year to date, that's January to March, is done about 9.78%. When you annualize it, it's about 30 something percent. But because we don't know future returns, annualizing is not the best way to go. but so far from January to March, we made 9.78%. When we compare, when we look at year on year, since March 2024 to date, we've made 25.95% on the fund. Now we take the balance fund. So for those of us that are looking at diversification, this fund is, good. We have some treasury bills in there. We have some corporate bonds in government of Ghana bonds in there. We have some equities in there. We have some dollar hedge collective investment schemes in there. So this is a good way to diversify if you're looking to invest in long term, 5 years and above, or even 2, 3 years. You may explore the balance fund, and then we have the fixed income. The balance has done 11.86% from January to March, and then 23 from March last year to March this year. Then we have the fixed income fund, which is heavy in government of Ghana bonds. Like I mentioned, these bonds are heavily discounted now. So for those who come in now, when government pays the bonds in 20, when the government pays, when the bonds mature in 2027 and 2028, you are likely to make some good money. But so far, it's returned 6.45%, so it's not very negative. Just that it's not as liquid as it used to be. So thank you very much. I'll take any questions you may have.
Do you have any questions? Well, I'll take it that Mimi, everyone was able to understand what you shared with us today. I think there's part of it that I really I think I also do get a lot, especially when people come up to you saying they want to invest. I think one thing we've not talked much about, or most people don't know, is about setting goals when they want to invest, or having the investment plan is one thing a lot of us are not very much aware of. So it's good to touch on it. And we have one question in the chat from Kwabena Entry. So he says, hello, please, what would be the best 5 companies to buy shares from?
Hello, Kwabna. I can't give you that advice. Would have to do some research, but I can just mention companies that maybe you can explore. You can explore MTN, GCB, actually the financial stocks, Goel, Total, Bob. The thing about the Ghana Stock Exchange is that sometimes buying the stocks can be quite difficult. Getting them is not as liquid as the US market. But you can explore some of these options. You can look at their financial performance, do your research on them, and see if they align with your goals, and then go with them. Personally, I have Bank, I have MTN. I've placed in a request for GCB as well. So let's see how it goes. Yeah. As for the international stock market, there are so many opportunities, more than 3,000 companies listed. So if it's too much for you, you can just buy an ETF, maybe an S&P 500 ETF that exposes you to the top 10 companies, while you figure out what you want, and then invest in those ones as well.
Thank you very much. So I also have a question of my own. I think so. One
Okay.
key thing is talk about, as young people coming up, usually we seek for better jobs and better jobs. So one thing is the lifestyle inflation. So usually, so let's say you have a sudden jump in salary from one as a result of moving jobs. So could you give like some advice you give to young people who go through this, like a sudden rise in salary, how to still maintain their lifestyle and to increase their savings and potential investments?
Okay. So let me share with you a tip that helped me. So what I used to do is, I this tip I didn't use because I changed a job. I used because every year, my employer then would review our income. So this happens normally in October. So in October, I know that I'm receiving some, additional income. What I do is that, per my belief, that the end of October, the additional income that comes in, I give all as offering or first fruits. That's my belief. It may not work for you. Okay. Then by the next month, when the money is coming, I've already what do you call it, filled the direct debit. Maybe let's say it's 1,000. I've already filled the direct debit with maybe 800 or 1,000, depending on what I feel I would need to I want to save. I've already filled the direct debit. So the next month, the next one goes straight to the investment. So I never really get used to the new income level, because once you get used to the new income level, it becomes very difficult to save. But I made sure that I don't allow myself to, even maybe if I allow myself to taste maybe 1 month, but I made sure that I don't get used to that income level, because the way money is, it will find a place to go to. That may not even necessarily increase the quality of your life, but it may find a place to go to. So that's how you can deal with a sharp increase. Um, Understand how much is coming in, what would you want to do with the excess money, and then automate it as much as possible.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have one question from Claudia. What investment opportunities are available to someone who does not have a stable income flow?
Um, with the if you don't have a stable income flow, I would advise you to stick with the money market. I mentioned a number of options. I mentioned treasury bills, FDs, money market funds, and because you are more likely to dip into these funds because you don't have a stable income. So unless you have somebody funding, your expenses, then that's different. Then you can explore the other opportunities I mentioned. But otherwise, keep it in the short term investment so that you can easily have access to it. And then while you work towards, having something that's a bit more stable, because having a stable income is also not like, it doesn't need to be the same all the time, but having something that you can put some away is also very important.
Okay,
if
thank
you
you.
if you let me just add that some people may not have a stable income, but maybe get a lot of money at once. If you are like that, then the advice I'll give you is different. You need to know how much you spend monthly, and make sure that the lump amount you've received, you spread it to cover the period that you may not be getting much. Still use the 50-30-20 principle and set aside 20% of that money, in investment that align with the goals that you've set for yourself. So if it's long term, I mentioned some of the opportunities there. If it's short term, I mentioned some of the opportunities there. I hope this works.
I think answers the question.
Yeah.
I have one, personally, my last question. So I think I wanted to make this a bit practical. You mentioned about needs and wants. I think we need to maybe make it a bit practical for an individual to determine what they can put as a need and what they can put as a want.
I think I shared, it was in the picture. Just a minute. It was in the picture what is a need and what is a want. So maybe let me just, if you look at this side, you will see that needs are things you need to survive. So food, rent, transportation, utilities, wants, gym, entertainment, eating out, gifts, all the extra stuff that you don't really need, but you want. They add flavor to your life. And then these are the savings. Is it clear?
Okay, yeah, yes, correct. Okay. I want to know, do we have any more questions? I think that's all the questions we have.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for spending time. I hope that we all take action and do something, at least one thing. Um, I would love that you drop one thing you do differently from this presentation. That's my reward. Thank you, Gideon.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you so much, Mimi. So that was really insightful and a very practical session we can all learn from. We truly appreciate it. So to everyone, we thank you for joining us today. And I think from today, we'll have a different approach to how we spend our money from the various sources we get them. And I think we shouldn't forget to drop the one thing we learned. I think I'm going to go with the needs and wants. I think I have a lot of wants. I need to have to reduce them. So I think that's one thing I'll take away from this session. Please, Mimi, do you have any social media handles people can reach you out to?
So I'm sharing that in the chat. Um, so we have investment underscore friend. Um, we are on Instagram, and then we have investment friend on TikTok. TikTok. Yeah. The TikTok one I made a mistake with it, but I'm sure if you type investment friend, you should get something.
Investment friend. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you too. So if you want money market mutual funds, let me drop my number here. You can reach out to me. Any of the funds I mentioned, you can reach out to me. I would assist. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you all and have a wonderful session. Let's have a wonderful weekend. I think we are getting to Easter, so let's have a beautiful Easter and see you another time. Bye-bye.
Bye.